would say we were good together. I would say we had fun, but our trails would never run forever. Something else is on your mind, like everything that's good in life always comes to an end. We're letting go, drifting apart. There's no use trying to pretend. And I know that it's enough. Got the look on your face. It's so hard to explain, but the worst is the pain when you pronounce my name and you say, Gloria, please don't cry for me. Oh, Gloria, please don't cry for me. Yeah.
G'day everyone, sorry if there is some ambient noise around here. This is really quite a popular spot. We're in Echuca, a couple of hours drive from Melbourne, but it's also a hell of a lot of birds and things like that around here, so you're probably going to be hearing all those sort of things coming through occasionally. What I wanted to talk about today is a bit more of a review of the a6400, because now I have had this for a week or so, and I wanted to talk to you about how it's been going so far. And there's a few things that are really good. There's a couple of things obviously that aren't so good, so I'll be talking to you about that too. So let's start off with having a look at the body. So let's look at the body itself. Now, if you look at it, it's very, very similar to what we had with the a6300. In fact, the body is absolutely identical, I think. I looked at something I posted the other day that Sony Alpha Rumors put on, and the body itself was almost completely identical. So I don't think they've changed anything in that regard. The only thing that's really changed is obviously the flip-up screen that you can now have coming up towards you, and therefore you can see yourself in a vlogging type mode, which we'll look at now. Okay, so what we're doing here is I've obviously got it on a gimbal, so we'll see how nice. Now this is how you would have to use this, not having Ibis internal, but you can see it's quite nice being able to look at myself through the screen, so that's a really great feature with this camera, and I think it'll work quite well in that regard. So this is recording using obviously an extension. It's a Rode mic, so we can compare how that sounds to what I used before with the on-camera mic, just to see how they both compare. So it's an interesting thing. I do think to get the best audio out of this, you definitely need to either be using a lapel or something like the Rode Video Micro Pro. But anyway, I thought I'd show you those two different comparisons. The lift-up screen does cause one problem in the fact that if you want to put a microphone to face forward, what it will do is completely block the screen. So that does become a real issue if you want to do vlogging that way. Now there are ways out of this, obviously. You can buy rigs, and I've got a small rig one and I've ordered a new one, which is especially for the a6400, and then you can put the actual microphone on the side over there. So that will fix that. You can even put them on the side here with mounting options, but the only issue there is the fact that you do then have to carry another mounting point. It also adds weight to the camera. So these are all issues that it would have been so much easier if Sony had just allowed that screen to come out. Now, if you're just doing normal vlogging though and things like that, it is quite nice to use that, and you could see that when I used it before. But the onboard microphone is nowhere near what you'll get with using, say, a lapel that I'm using at the moment. So that is one of the issues that you're dealing with if you're dealing with using this. So it wasn't really thought out that well. I know some people are saying that at least if you have the microphone there or the screen is up from there, that you're looking towards the lens when you're doing your video or your vlog. So that's very true. But I think it would be much easier to have it actually on the left-hand side. So let's talk about the new menu system in this camera. It does seem to be a lot easier to use in the fact that now if you're looking at the menus from the back, there is a favorite menu that you can use, which I do really like, and I had that with the A7R2 and the A9. That is a really useful feature. The other thing that I also like is the way that you can see a graphical representation of what the quick keys or the custom buttons actually are there as well. So that's another fantastic thing as well, is to have that there. And I do find the menus are definitely improving over time, but the thing is they still could do a lot more improvement. Obviously if you have a touchscreen here. It's just a pity that you can't manipulate that touchscreen just with your finger and move around like you can on other cameras. You can double tap on the actual back of the screen to enlarge the photo though if you're viewing photos, but that's really about all you can do is double tap to move it around, and then that's about it. I'm just waiting here for these beautiful old paddle steamers to come past. So the boat you're looking at coming past now is the Pride of the Murray, and the other one that's coming across here is the Camberwell. I'll move out the way so you can see it. They're beautiful old, I suppose you could say, paddle boats. And they like, this is the way they used to transport all of the services years ago here in Victoria, right down the Murray River. So it's quite fascinating to have a look at how they actually are. And let's talk about the log profiles that are in this camera now. So you have got log in here. There is log 2, log 3. There's also HLG if you want to go down that way. In fact, I'm actually recording in S-log 2 at the moment due to the dynamic range here, because we're shooting at midday. It's very, very bright, so I wanted to see if I could get as much dynamic range as possible. So you have got those log profiles in here. You can also get the log assist, so you can view the log assist in there as well if you want to actually see how that looks. Now that can be a great thing, because if you use the log assist in here, you'll get a closer representation to what the file actually looks like, or the video looks like, rather than it being so flat. Because the problem is when you use these log profiles and also HLG, they do tend to look very, very flat in the monitor. And if say for instance you were showing that to someone else and they were giving you approval or something like that, you really don't have any idea about what the true colors look like for these files. So having those assists there are really fantastic. In fact, you can put your own in and also use the Sony ones that are built into the camera as well. So that is a really fantastic feature with this. So what about the focus modes of this camera? This really is the difference between any of the other cameras that are out there at the moment, apart from the new A9 that's going to come out. The IAF is fantastic, and you'll see some results as I'm talking about that. This is the difference between, say, having one of the other cameras, the a6500, the a6300, even the a7R2 or the a7 III. The focus on this has been taken to another level really, and it will probably only be bettered when the A9 firmware comes out that gives it basically the same firmware. But due to the readout of the A9 sensor, the A9 probably will be much better. But I've found with this, the tracking is just incredible. You will be looking at some quick results of that now as I'm talking. So the tracking is really nice in this camera. It does lock on and it's very, very sticky. It will work in stills and also in video, so that's one great thing as well. And I've really found that a great feature. I can't wait to use this on a gimbal, say following the bride down the aisle. That's going to be absolutely amazing. IAF also is very, very sticky with this now, and it seems to be much better than it was previously. If they turned away, it really lost the eye straight away. This tends to grab the eye. Then if it can't grab the eye, it will grab the face. Then if it can't grab the face, it will grab the whole body. And that is so fantastic having that tracking mode. But the IAF is super sticky. You can use a quick key to swap between eyes, so you can now choose which eye you want to go to as well. And that's also a real advantage, particularly if you're shooting in open apertures like 1.8 or 1.4. So what about image quality here? One of the things that with the APS-C is that some people say you can't really get really good depth of field. Now it is much better than, say, if you're shooting with micro four thirds cameras like that, and in fact if you use a decent lens you can get really nice depth of field with APS-C cameras, and I'll show you a few now while I'm talking. So these images that are actually shot here were shot with a 55mm 1.8, so it is full frame glass that I'm using on here, but you can see when you're looking at all of these images that the depth of field is really, really nice. Now when you're using full frame lenses on cameras like this, they just work exactly the same as the APS-C. Some people say you shouldn't use full frame glass, but I find there's no penalty at all, and in fact I love using them. It may be that I don't even buy any APS-C lenses anymore and just incorporate full frame lenses on this camera, because I have, like I said, full frame cameras as well, like the a7 III and the A9. So I'm really happy with the overall performance. It's basically basically giving me the same performance I had with the a6300 and the a6500 due to the fact I believe the sensor is exactly the same. What about ISO? When you're dealing with ISO with this camera, it's basically the exact same sensor as the a6300, 6400 and the 6500. So the results you're getting out of that are going to be comparable to those other cameras. I've found with those other cameras, now I haven't done low light testing on this yet, I will. But I've found that you can go up to about 6400 and get quite good results as long as you expose correctly, exposing a little bit to the right so you're not crunching the shadows, and that's one way you can get nice clean shots. So I do often use up to 6400 and that's one great thing with this camera. It's very good. It won't beat full frame cameras though, but when you consider that this is APS-C, it's quite a good result. One of the real disappointments with the Sony a7 III was that they got rid of the time-lapse apps that you could purchase on Play Memories store. So this is great that they've now finally brought it back into this camera. It's not something that I really use very often at all, but at least it's there if you do want to use it, if you're traveling and things like that. You don't have to take a separate piece of hardware away with you when you do a time-lapse exposure, which is really fantastic, and I'm so glad that Sony have added that back in. Let's talk about a couple of the real issues with this. For starters, there's no Ibis. Now, that may not be a problem if you're dealing with it, say, on a tripod or something like that, but the second you're hand holding this, it does become an issue, particularly seeing they're flaunting this as a vlogging camera. So it's not ideal to hand hold it, and that can be a problem with this if you're hand holding it, and we'll look at a couple of examples of that in a minute, and I'll show you that. Okay, so this is hand holding this, so you're going to get an idea about how smooth this is when I'm holding it. I mean, look, I can only see the results I'm getting from looking at this through the actual monitor itself because it's sticking up, but I don't think you're going to get anywhere near what you'll get with using a gimbal, or if this even had Ibis. Now admittedly though, this is going to be interesting because this is a stabilized lens, because I'm using the 10 to 18 lens here, so it will be interesting to see how this is stabilizing, if I'm getting anything reasonably good from it at all. So hand holding is not ideal, and that's one of the problems. So ideally you'll have it on a gimbal, and that's how you'd have to use this really, or stick it on a tripod or something like that. But I suppose for the price point you can't really complain about that feature not being in. It probably has also enabled the battery to be improved as well. So that's the second thing I want to discuss with you. The battery is still a bit of a problem. It goes nowhere near what the Z battery does, but they have improved it around, they're saying around 30 to 40%. But you're still going to need 3 or 4 of these batteries if you want to go for whole day shooting, whereas with the Z battery I can honestly go usually with 1 battery and then only change for a second battery at the end of a long wedding day. So this old battery technology is not that great, but that clearly can't be changed, I suppose, until they change the body, which is what we might see in something like the a7000. So the battery is also a problem. So the third thing I wanted to talk to you about was rolling shutter. Now the rolling shutter in this is not good, and it's never been good in the a6000 series cameras, and it's particularly not good if you want to move the camera around very fast. And that's the thing. So if you're trying to follow action, you know, with whipping your camera around and stuff like that, you're going to have real issues with this camera. You really need something like the A9, which is better, and the a7 III is better as well. You will get slightly better rolling shutter if you're in 1080p, but the other problem is if you're dealing with 1080p, the actual image is quite soft from this camera. It's nowhere near what you can get from the a7 III and the a7R III and the a9. The 1080p video in those cameras is actually very, very good, but I certainly would try and avoid, if you can, to use 1080p on this. But you have to sometimes if you want to use slow motion, because obviously if you want to go past the 4K 30p, you then have to go into 1080p, because that's the only way you can get to 50 or 60p depending on where you are in the world, or even 120p. So that's an issue. So if you do want to do slow motion, you're going to have to face those consequences of softer video, and there's no way of getting around that at this stage. All right, hang on a second. Yeah, just sort of stop about there. No. All right, ready, go. Now keep coming. Stop there. Go back a little bit. All right, now go over to the side. Go right to the frame. Come back in now. go over that side. All right, now come back in. All right, now run away, back that way, walk away, turn around. All right, stop there, turn back to me. All right, now come forward, run. Said stop there. All right, stay there. I'm gonna come around this way. Let me go this way and see. Woohoo! All right, thank you.
Not say it.
Go.
Hi guys.
I just wanted to say thank you to my two beautiful grandchildren here. They've helped me today in all of this videoing. They've been lovely and quiet as I've been doing it as well, and I really love them to actually death. So I thought that I'd give them. Paisha and Lenny actually have their own little YouTube channel as well, and they're just starting that, so they're going like their granddad. And so stay tuned for that, because I'm sure eventually these two are going to be amazing with their channel. That's all guys, so I'll see you all for the next video. Bye!